Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 19 of the anime series Log Horizon. Badass episode, picking up right where we left off, the thick of the battle and the heat of it. And we're talking about, Minori and Toya's little group. We have, of course, Krusty's group, and we see how badass Krusty is to basically shocked and surprised Lanessia. I loved her overseeing this battle from afar. They give her that scope sight vision, the heat vision, everything like that, and she sees the oncoming goblin hordes, all this stuff, and we just see Krusty unleashing hell. I did think it was quite interesting that Lanessia observes that he is, enjoying the heat of the battle. He's really having a ball, a time of it, but at the same time he's distanced and lonely, much as she is. I think she can find a commonality in his persona, in his reserved side, and I love the dynamics that this series explores along those lines. You have Shiro, who is basically at the command center. He's issuing orders and shipping out all these different factions. We have one who is trying to, on that steamship, they're trying to get to where this whole, Goblin Horde battle is going down within an hour. In this episode, it says they'll be there an hour later. And the tides are turning not for the better, as the Goblin Hordes are still oncoming. And then we have a couple of giants that show up with Minori and Toya's group. We have these two wolves that show up, and they've been holding their own for the most part, but after a while they're starting to get drained. And this is where the real shift of the episode, at least for me, happens, where we see, they just are brought to their limits. And it seems, for the moment, Rundle House, Rudy, is killed. That made me really pause and kind of catch my breath. I was like, whoa, what's going on? And as we all, have gathered and suspected through the comment sections in my videos, I've seen other people being right in line with me, thinking he must be a person of the land. That ends up being true, and it turns out that his friend in the group, she knew this all along. He asked her to keep it secret. He wanted no one else to know. And I find this a really compelling and intriguing aspect, because not only is it, something very emotional and dramatic, a turning point in the episode and the story for the characters, but it's also the grander scale of things. If a person of the land can actually harness the abilities and the powers that Arundel House has, why can't the rest of them? They all think they are incapable of having the same kind of strength as the adventurers and stuff like that. But if anything, this episode has shown us on multiple levels that there is a commonality between the two factions, between the two peoples. The people who are kind of aliens there, the adventurers, and the ones who are naturally there, the people of the land. Between that noticing of Lanessia that Krusty is lonely and all of those similar things she feels out of place in her environment, in the life that she's leading as a princess. It's not living up to her needs and wants, and much the same is she seeing in Krusty. All the while, as I say, with Rundle House, he is a person of the land who has bridged all potential gaps that, cause a divide between the people of the land and the adventurers. And that just signals to me, I hope this gets out there. I hope that there is some awareness brought to the people of the land and the adventurers alike. By the end of the episode, of course, we see that Minori and her group are trying to heal and revive Rundle House. Rudy, he is not being revived, and we see them crying, and essentially she says in the last-ditch effort at some kind of hope, holding on to some kind of hope, she calls out to Shiro. Shiro has been stationed, as I say, in that sort of hub, and he's been very reluctant to leave. We see that Akatsuki really wants to get battling. She wants to get fighting. She's fondling the butt of her sword. She's like, come on, we're going to be going soon, and he's like, no, we got to stay here until all of the factions ship out, and, still conducting this overseeing of the strategies and all this stuff, and she just wants to go. She wants to kick some ass. And I love that because, again, it's that character dynamic between Shiro and Akatsuki that I love. And, of course, we see now Sugu and Mariel and all of them. They're doling out whatever, support and aid they can, but they're pretty much reserved. We haven't really seen them, Nienta and everything like that. We really haven't seen them full-on fighting, and it seems like they have some other things in mind, or maybe they've been fighting off-screen while we've been following other groups and stuff like that. But it all comes down to the preview for the next episode. As we leave off with Minori desperately calling Shiro, the next episode sees the title being Contract, saying that Shiro is going to try to bend the rules, bend the limits of this world in his trying to arrive and save Rudy. And the question is, by the term contract, will he enter into some kind of binding vice-like contract that may serve a lesser cause in the future, may actually be more ominous and nefarious than positive? That is something I'm chomping at the bit to see how this story goes from here. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 19 of Log Horizon. If you've seen it, realize I can't, respond to your posts, but I still love reading them, everyone's thoughts and, speculations as to where we're going, how you enjoyed the episode and such like that. And, yeah. So otherwise, that'll be it for me on this. I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.